certainly because it's free and because it has so much, it's always the first place I tell people to start looking for their family history. So the Family Search website is actually the online presence of the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, Utah. So they're the same organization. One is a bricks and mortars library, the other is the online version of it. So they're the same. They're both owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Latter-day Saint, or sometimes it's known by its historical nickname, the Mormon Church. And the reason that, like, well, why is church doing genealogy stuff? Part of the church's mission statement is to help people feel connected to their families. They believe that families are eternally connected, whether they're living or dead. And then they want to provide free resources, whether you are a member of that church or not, or that's your philosophy or not. They want to provide free resources for anyone to connect with their family history. So these two, just remember this partnership, that they're the same thing, Family Search and the Family History Library, because we will come back to that in just a little bit. So I'm going to throw some statistics at you, and they are enormous. Think of FamilySearch.org as an enormous digital library. It has 8 billion searchable names that you can go through and look for ancestors' names. It has an additional 4 billion record images that have not had the names extracted from them yet. And that could be, maybe there's one name on each image, or maybe there's 100 names, you just don't know. But there's that many additional record images that they've put the pictures on the site, but nobody's gotten the names out of them yet. So there's a lot of content there. In addition to all of those that I just said, there's another 500,000 digitized books of all different kinds, and we'll go over some of those possibilities in just a little bit. But that's in addition to everything that I just told you. And who knows how many people and places are mentioned in each of those books. They also have, and your handout doesn't go into it so much, but I've also added a couple of slides to introduce their global family tree that has more than 1.2 billion names in the global family tree. So I'll show you how that works tonight too. And something to know is that the site just keeps growing. They are adding nearly 300 million new records every year. They've got about 300 cameras that are going all around the world at any given time, including during COVID. They still have crews working. Some of their operations might be more limited, but they're still putting content online, including records that have been on microfilm for a lot of years at the Family History Library, and now they're going to digital. They've got more than 1 million volunteers who come onto the website or onto an app and help look at the names that are in old record images and type them out to make them easier for other people to find them. So it's an enormous operation, and it is largely a volunteer operation, which is really neat. So let's talk about searching for records on this enormous digital library. So when you go to Family Search, it's actually like going to lots of different specialized libraries. It's not just one door that opens and then you can see everything on the site. You actually have to dig around into different places to look at different kinds of records or in different ways. I'm going to walk you through these places and you'll see why. Each of these areas goes into, they provide access to different kinds of content or different ways. So the indexed records portal will let you search through names that have already been taken out of old records. It's the easiest way to find your family history. If your grandparents' names or your aunts and uncles or your great-grandparents' names have already been indexed from old records, this is the easiest way to go. And I'll show you how that works. Also, you can look at just the old images that have not had the names taken out yet. They're just digitized records. You can search through the digitized books. You can look through the entire catalog of the Family History Library, because you remember there is a bricks and mortar, and not everything in the Family History Library has been able to be put on FamilySearch.org yet. As enormous as the website is, the catalog of the library is much bigger. And I'm going to show you how to search that catalog just to find out what else might be out there at the Family History Library, or maybe a copy at a library near you. The very last thing I'll show you in terms of finding old records is the research wiki. That's basically like Wikipedia for genealogy. It just shows you how to be a genealogy researcher, or how to find records in the places that you're interested in, or the languages, or anything like that. So different ways of searching will get you to different kinds of content. And that's why they have different doors or different portals into searching each of these areas. Let's start by searching index names, because that's usually the first place that people stop when they go on the site. The first thing they want to do is see if their grandparents are there, or their great grandparents, or any names they know from their family history. So indexed records, as I sort of already mentioned, are records that are like you see on the left here. It's a historical record that's got somebody's name in it and tells you something about their life. Often genealogical records tell you something about their identity, when and where they were born, when and where they married and whom, and when and where they died. Then of course, who their parents were, who their siblings were, who their children were, all those kinds of things that help you build your family tree. So indexing is the volunteer effort at FamilySearch, at least, where the names and the pertinent data are extracted from those records and put into a searchable database, so that when somebody like us comes along and we want to look for our family members, it's a lot easier for us. We don't have to page through all of these old record images to find them ourselves. So you can see why this is the first stop at FamilySearch, is to look in index records. So let's take a look at that. And you'll see that as I go back and forth, I'm going to demonstrate these live on the sites. So you can see so you can see how they work. So it just takes just a second while um, I change over the screen sharing. So there we go. All right, so now you should see the landing page for FamilySearch. And if you don't, you should let me know. We're going to go under search, and this is where you're going to do all your activities tonight, is under search, and all these different things are places that you can go to learn, but I'm going to focus on a few of them. Under search records, that's where you go to search the name indexes. So if you know somebody's name and anything about them, their identity or their family members, you can enter it here. Let's say that I know something about Harry Averill, who was born in, or at least as a child, I know he lived in Painesville. But I'm not sure what year. So you can just enter what you know, and you can see that I've entered a place name that gives me like the city, the county, and the state. And if I give them this much information, the website will know what I'm looking for. So I could add things like the name of a loved one, or a birth year, or things like that. But right now, I'd just like to see everything they have on a Harry Averill who would have lived in Painesville. So I'm going to say search. And what I see here is that it's starting to give me some great search results. They all mostly seem to be for Harry W. Averill at the top there, and who was living in East Cleveland. But there's my Harry Averill from Painesville Township. So this is the one that I knew about. These are the parents that I had known about, Dan and Minna. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at Harry Averill. And when I open this up, I'm going to see two things. I'm going to see that index on the left. So all the information that's been typed out of it and everything about this record. And then on the right here and down here, I can see other people mentioned in the record too. And then here, I could go in and take a look at the original document myself. And anytime you can do that is a good idea, because the transcript might be wrong and it might be incomplete. There might be a lot more information about this person than is written in the transcript. So I zoom in and I'm looking for Harry Averill, the Averill family, and there they are. And there he's listed as a son, born in April of 1882. That's my guy. And so I would, if I were researching, I would take a copy of this record, I would add it to my family tree, his profile, and keep researching from there, extract all the information I could out of this record and what it's telling me about the family, including that his mother was apparently born in Germany, had 10 children, and only 5 were living by the 1900 census. That's a lot of information to know about this particular family. So that is how it works when you're searching for indexed records. So I could go back here to the search results, and if I wanted to, let's say I got way too many Harry Averils, I could narrow things down, or I could make my search more specific by adding the name of a loved one. As you can see on the left, you could do that. I could also add more information if I knew when he died or where he lived, that kind of thing. Or if I was just looking for vital records or census records, I could also limit my search results to where they were or the type of record it was, that kind of thing. Okay, so again, you're going to see those filters down there. So when you're looking at the search results, this tells you that you could see the transcript of it. This tells you that there's an image available. This tells you that a person has that this record has been attached to somebody's name in the global family search family tree, which you could also go at and look at, and I'll show you that later. So there's lots of little icons here to let you see what is available on the website. And as you can see, there's lots of different records here. World War I draft registration, passenger lists of different kinds. So lots to look at here. All right, I'm going to take you back into the presentation. This is a little cumbersome, I know, but a few tips. When you're looking in indexed records, sometimes the names don't appear exactly as you expect them to be. Try different kinds of search combinations. I knew the name Harry Averill, but maybe that wasn't his real name. Maybe it was Henry. Maybe Harry was a nickname, or Harold. And so I could try different search combinations. If I knew about that middle initial W, I could look for him under HW, those kinds of things. If it wasn't quite coming up, you can also, a more advanced search strategy is to use wildcards. FamilySearch will let you replace a character or two, or however many you want to, of your search with either a question mark to replace a single character, or an asterisk to replace multiple characters. You don't know how many. So if the middle of the name might be, you're not quite sure what the middle of the name might look like, you can use these characters in your search, and they'll give you a greater variety of search results than if you just searched for one spelling at a time. So try to filling in different fields if you're not finding the person you're looking for, or if you're not quite sure of the full identity of a person you're looking for. Let's say, for an example, that you learned that a woman that you know named Madeline, but you're not quite sure of the full spelling, married a Mr. Talbot. So you want to, whoops, sorry about that. So you would like to, you'd like to see if you can find the marriage record for Madeline to Mr. Talbot. And you know it's in Pennsylvania, and you know it was between a range of years, so 1912 to 1918. I could actually put Talbot in the last name field and leave the first name blank. Put in what I know about the place and the range of years, and then you see how I'm using the wild cards for the first name, because Madeline can be spelled so many different ways. So now that would give me any search results that show me a Madeline somebody marrying a Talbot in Pennsylvania during that time period. So you can get very specific if you're just creative with how you fill out the search fields. Do understand that there is a funnel effect. This was explained to me by one of the senior engineers at FamilySearch. He said the more information you enter about a person, the more specific your search results are going to be. So go ahead and put in like a range of years for birth, and then you'll get a set of results. But if you say, no, I only want a birth in 1877 in Massachusetts, if there's nothing that matches those parameters, you won't get any or as many search results. So if If you want to narrow it down that firmly, then go ahead and add lots of characteristics. But chances are pretty good that there won't be a single record that has every single thing you're looking for in an ancestor's name. So there's very few things that mention their birth and their marriage and their death and all that kind of thing. So you don't want to fill out every single possibility in your search parameters, or you might get no search results. Maybe an obituary. Obituaries tend to tell you those kinds of things. But don't put in more than the system can handle, because those records will not have every single thing in each one. The other thing is to check back frequently. As I mentioned, they keep adding new content to the site, millions and millions of new names every month. So if you don't find what you're looking for, come back and look a little bit later. It's always free. You can come back whenever you want to. Okay, so now let's go look at some of these other places to look at online record collections, because once you have finished searching through the names that are already indexed, some people say, well, that's plenty, that's good enough, or they say that's disappointing. Whatever it is that you're saying, you can go look for record collections in different ways. So instead of searching for an ancestor's name, you're under the published online collections, you're actually looking to see what collections of records they have. Essentially, what books are on their shelves is a good way of looking at this. So, for example, here's a screenshot of the historical record collections for the state of Ohio. Now I'm going to show you how that works when you search the historical record collections yourself, because I do suggest that you do that. Let's say you didn't find Harry Averill in the 1900 census, and so you'd like to go and dig for him in just that census. So we're coming back to the same screen under search records. That's where I brought you. And on the left, you see we've already been here where you enter a name. On the right, scroll down, and you can just choose a location, but I like to browse all published collections, because that will bring you to this screen. So this screen lets you just browse the stacks, so to speak, of all of the records that might be available for a particular place and then a particular time period or whatever. So let's say United States of America. All right, so we're going to look at US records, and then I can filter those down. So I'm using the place filters on the left. I've said I just want US records, and now I'm going to come down to Ohio. I just want to look at the Ohio collections that are fully published online. I've looked at some of them. They're really, really wonderful. Okay, so what I can do here is I can search by, I can look to see what the biggest records are. The biggest record collections are. The Ohio Death Index is their biggest collection with 7.6 million of them, but they also have an enormous collection of county marriage records, tax records, birth records. So the biggest collections here are of vital events mostly, except for the tax records. So this is fantastic, and also a growing collection of naturalization records. See how recently these were added to? Only this collection of death records hasn't been updated for a while. Everything else seems to have been updated within the past year or so. So it does not give you the option to go down to the county level. You just have to look through here if you wanted to look for any collections related to Lake County or to a particular county or place of interest. Okay, so you could, let's say you were interested in, let's look at this. There was one particular collection I wanted to show you. It was a military collection. All right, so Ohio Soldier Homes records. Let's say that you saw this and you're like, oh, that's interesting. There were admission records of veterans to the State Soldier Home in Sandusky. This says that they were gotten from the State Archive in Columbus. That's probably from Ohio History Connection. So you can learn more about this collection by clicking here. Or you can search just within the Ohio Soldier Home records if you wanted to see if your family had any relationship there. Let's say you're still looking for the Averils. And then you could add any other information, but with a specific collection like this, I'm just going to be curious to see if there's any Averils in here at all. And I find that there is. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. And now, again, I'm not searching the whole entire site. Hello?
Can't see what you're talking about.
Oh dear. How long has that been going on?
A few minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to take you back into all right, so tell me what you see right now, whoever is unmuted.
Says, let's take a look.
Okay, so I had a strange line show up on my screen. Do you see a strange green line written across it?
Yes.
Okay, I wonder if that caused the problem. I have no idea where that came from or why it's there. And I wonder if that caused our visibility issues. So, and I don't know how to make it stop. So I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and try a new share to take you back into FamilySearch where I was showing you before. Okay, the green line disappeared on my end. Did it disappear on your end?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that technical glitch. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Okay, so hopefully now you can see in FamilySearch, I have done a search within the collections, and now you see the results that I have found by searching for the Averill family in the Ohio Soldier Home records. And if I go in here now, I can look at people whose records are part of this. And again, this is going to take me back into the same experience you saw with the index records previously, where I could review what's been transcribed. I could review the original record if there is an original document there. So we won't do that part again. I just wanted you to see that when you do a search records, I just want to repeat that because I'm not sure where I lost you. And then you go to the browse all published collections. If you were to filter this down to Ohio collections, then you can search within these individual collections that look interesting to you. Let's say a lot of these records have had the names indexed for you, and that's what these numbers mean, is how many names have been extracted from these records. But there are some that the names have not been extracted yet. So they've just been uploaded, but they're just what's called browse images. So you can go through them page by page, but you can't search the names. So I was just looking at this one earlier today. So let's see what they've got on Geauga County browse images. This has been here for a little while. It's been here for a few years. But when I take a look at that, then you can see that it has digitized images. It's giving you a description. They've got marriage records, naturalizations, probates, and deeds from the Geauga County Archives. And they're just publishing it as they go. Since you can't name search, you see there's no search here for you to enter names. So instead you have to choose the browse option. And that means page by page. It doesn't mean you have to go through all the records. It means it's going to give you these little waypointers that you can say, oh yes, I'm interested in deed records, and this is the right time period. Or there might be deed indexes that you could start there. I'm interested in naturalizations. I'm interested in mortgage records. That's great. That's a great record to find. So there's records of wills, all kinds of things. And if I chose one of these to look at, let's say I'm going to choose this one, then I'm going to get to an image viewer. So this is showing me, and this might look kind of silly, like what use is this? But the very first image in the series is usually the outside of the record volume. So I could page through and I can zoom in. And often at the beginning of a big volume, you're going to find some kind of name index. And there it is, a grantor and grantee index that appears to be organized by surname. So I would only have to page through the first part of this, the surnames of my family members, to find that, look, there's J.N. Allen, and he's on page 156 in this volume, and William Adams is on page 318. And then I could forward, and then let's say, I don't know if there's 1 or 2 pages on each image. So let's say I'm looking for that William Adams on page 318. What happens if I go to 318? So I'm at 286. So the pages and the image numbers are a little bit different. So then I'm going to go to like 340 and see if I can get closer to that. So see, as I get a little bit closer, then I might just page forward until I get to the page that I want. And then I can read through the record image. So that's how the browse collections work. And sometimes, as you see, there's an older index inside at the beginning of a volume that you can look at, and sometimes there is not. Okay, so let's go back. So just to review the tips here is that the historical record collections that I just showed you are basically a list of all the books on the shelf, like you would think of in a library. So this is where you can go to explore what records might be on the website, whether or not your relatives came up in those records at the first time you tried to search them. You can look for things that are unique, like soldier home records, or you can look for things that are common, like the 1910 census, if you couldn't find your relative's name in it, and then just search within that 1910 census. So any of the collections you find, maybe sometimes they just have indexes, so there wouldn't be any pictures that go along with them. Sometimes they just have the record images, like the ones that I showed you that are browse only. And your best case scenario, they have both. The collections that you look in might be national, like World War I draft registrations. They might be statewide collections, like these Ohio vital record collections I talked about, or they might be county or local records, like a couple of the others you saw. Again, you can come here to find the collection of most interest and then to drill down into that collection so that your efforts are focused within it. All right, so now let's move on to our next door, historical images. This is a fairly new one. So even if you've used FamilySearch quite a bit before, you may not have seen this yet. So there are approximately now 4.3 billion record images, and the number keeps growing. That's grown just since 2 billion from last year. It's insane, the number of images that are on this website, and they're trying to get them on here as quickly as possible. As I mentioned, they have camera crews around the world that are working, both in Salt Lake City at the Family History Library, transferring microfilm and print collections to digital, but also out around the world in archives that are digitizing things. They're digitizing handwritten records like what you can see, which will eventually be indexed. They're also digitizing a lot of print volumes like what you see here on the right. And those you search in a little bit different way. They don't need to be name indexed because the computer can do a pretty good job reading that text via a technology called OCR. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Right now, we're going to focus on a repository for all of these handwritten records that have just been added to the site, and that is in historical images. So let's switch back over. All right, so we're now back over onto FamilySearch, and under search, we're going to go to images. So that is a fairly new choice that you have. We've already finished with records where we had index records and published digital record collections. Now we're at images. And when you go to images, they have now made their upload process so fast that images that were captured 24 hours ago in Poland or in Bolivia or in England or in Kansas are uploaded here to the site. 24-hour turnaround time. So they have not been indexed yet, and they've not had some of the fine tuning of the digital processing done, but they are at least organized by place so that you can just look and see what's new. I think of this as the place, so I have a favorite little boutique that I go to in Willoughby. It's an upscale resale shop. It's called It's So You. I don't know if you've ever been there. I can say this to you guys because you're local. I would not say this to an audience outside Northeast Ohio. But I think of this place as when I walk into It's So You, I like to see what's new. I go there frequently enough that I just want to see what's come in since the last time I checked. And so I like the racks that are in the front that show me what's new. And that's what this is. So this is showing you all of these images that have been added to the site recently and that are not yet indexed. And basically the search option that you choose is a search by place. So again, let's do Lake County, Ohio. And you can see that as I start entering things, the search system is smart and it gives me lots of options. So I'm going to choose Lake County, Ohio, and I'm going to say search image groups. And it's going to bring up lots of different records that have recently been added to FamilySearch, some of which I just keep checking back because there's all these new things that keep being added, including a bunch of issues from the Painesville Telegraph that I didn't know were here. Those just got added not too long ago. So I could go through and look for Lake County. I can see lots of marriage records are coming in. There's some tax records, but then there's also some places within Lake County. So I can see if I go to the left, I could search for record groups associated with Kirtland, Leroy Township, Mentor, Painesville, Reynolds, Wheeler, I don't even know those places, and Willoughby. So I can choose to look at any of these collections within here, or I can also just choose any of these within Lake County. So let's take a look and see what there is there in Mentor. So Mentor, what I'm seeing here is some vital records. These ones are 1855 to 60, but these ones don't tell me when they were. But these are some pretty good sized collections. So this is what the experience is like. You could just go ahead and click on that, and then you're going to come into this image browser again. This should start to be looking pretty familiar, and you can scroll through. You can see that this is kind of at the beginning of the book or the volume that they're looking at. So I just want to look at one of these pages. I can use this zoom in and out to see the information that's been each of these pages. So that is how that works. If I wanted to go back to the search, I'd do it that way, and I could look for more places. Okay, maybe I'm done looking at Mentor. I can back up here to go back to Lake County. Okay, so that is how the historical images works. And again, this is the recently added material that you just have to browse through and see what they have. And it's really kind of fun to do because sometimes they're in your own backyard and you have no idea that these records even existed, let alone that they're online for you to look at. So I think that's pretty exciting. Okay, so let's go back to some tips here. All right, so when I use the historical images, I try to have zero expectations because you never know what you're going to find. There might be nothing right now for that county in Kansas, or there might be 5 different collections or 25. So I try to just go and say, let's just take a peek and see what there is. I do a search by place as I showed you, and then I narrow down to the parameters that I want. And that is, I think, the best way to search historical images. But you can choose the show more search options if you want to search by date or by life event. So you can add more filters if you want to. And they added this life event because some people are not super familiar with different kinds of historical record types. And they say, well, I know that I want my ancestors' birth or marriage information, but I don't really even know what kind of records to look for. That's why you choose a life event, like a birth or a marriage. But if you know record types really well and you're saying, well, I'm just looking for newspapers and obituaries, or I'm looking for a certain type of record, you can show advanced. Once you show more search options, you'll see that there's an advanced option, and that will allow you to search by record type. If you're a pretty savvy researcher, maybe you want to do that. Okay, so let's talk about books next. We're getting through this pretty well. So books is where we get to we're going to get to a different kind of search, and that's why this search system, this search area here is segregated from the rest of them, because we're searching a different kind of material. We're searching in digitized books, and the type of search that you carry out is not like you would search index names, where you enter names in and then it looks through a database. Instead, you're entering keywords, which could be names or places or the name of a church or the name of a cemetery or a minister, or it could be any sort of description. You could enter an occupation, any kind of keyword at all. You're going to enter those words, and the computer system will then search through, and it basically has scanned all of these digital images and transformed what it saw into text that it can search. And it's not a perfect process, but it can digitally read, quote and unquote, read what's in these books. So again, let's go ahead and take a look, see if I can do this just a little bit faster. Okay, we're up here under our favorite drop-down menu again. Under search, we've already looked at records, we've looked at images. We're going to skip over family tree and genealogies because right now we're just focusing on digging for old records. And we're going to the books portal. So that books portal takes you to the FamilySearch digital library. And if you scroll down, you'll see information about it. These are all the different partner libraries they've worked with to digitize these books. And there's a lot of them. But what you want right now is the search. Okay, so let's say that you're interested in a history of Lake County. So I'm just going to put in Lake County, Ohio. I actually went looking for Perry before. I was just playing with it before I got on with you guys. And when I put in Perry, Ohio, of course, it gives me Perry County, Ohio. And that wasn't super helpful. So I'm like, oh, well, let's just start with Lake County, which happens a lot. There's a lot of names that get used over and over again. So here's my search results for Lake County, Ohio. And I love seeing that the very first search result is an atlas. And the second one is an inventory of the county archive. These look great. And this is showing me that it's a publicly accessed. I can look at full text results because each of them might have different levels of access. There's another one that's public, but some of them may have restrictions on it where it might tell you you have to go to a local family history center to look at those. And the closest family history center that's affiliated with the Family History Library and FamilySearch is in Kirtland. So it's not too far from you guys. And they've just started opening up with limited hours again. So you can make appointments, I think, at the Family History Library or Family History Center in Kirtland if you need to. Okay, so let's say I want to look at this Atlas of Lake County. So I click on that. I can see the publication information. This is a bibliographic. I can see who owns it, where it came from, and then I see what I want to see. And that's a wonderful thing that says view all 55 pages. That's fantastic. So when I say view all 55 pages, you're going to become very familiar with this image viewer because now you have the ability to turn pages, go forward or back here. I can go forward and just read the book if I want to, but I can also do a search within this book. So let's say I wanted to search for mentions of Perry in this Lake County history. And I'm going to see that there are 9 of them. And I could scroll through and you see the way that the computer is reading the old book. It gets most of the words right, but it doesn't get all of them quite right. So you have to be willing to kind of look through some gobbledygook. Okay, and there's interesting, that's David Perry. So there's a Perry surname. Okay, so if I was interested in looking at more of one of these, then I could just click on it and it would take me to that page. And this page is actually looks like an advertisement. So I can do several different things. These are my control icons down here. I could zoom in to take a look at it or zoom back out. This is an optimized zoom and I'm not sure how that works, but optimized usually means it's just a little bit better quality picture. So I can choose whether I want to show this kind of thing. I can rotate the image if it's showing me sideways. I can adjust the contrast on it. There's lots of things that I can do here. Show the text just means that I'm showing the OCR text that has been transcribed digitally. There again is my search box. I can also print or download the materials that I found. So if this is a book you think you would use a lot, you can download a copy of it, or you could even print it yourself at home if you wanted to. You can take a picture or get some view thumbnail images of pages in the book. So as you can see, this is a pretty powerful image viewer if you're looking at if you're looking at an old book. And look at this, has been digitized in color, so you could actually see the maps. And this, to use this thumbnail is really helpful, because if you're looking for Perry, but it's not showing you, let's say that there's a map of Perry, but it's not reading that, then you wouldn't even know that. Well, let's see what that one is. So this one's Painesville. And so this is great because it's showing you, it's a really nice map view. And if I zoom in, so if you're interested in what your neighborhood looked like during this time period when the book was published, let's go back to that. So did it tell us? Alice Lake County. This is, if I look down when that was published, it doesn't say when it was published. So 1898, that's what it looks like. It's on the cover page there. So that's what the year is. Sometimes you have to look around a little bit to learn what you want to know. So this is how the Family Search books area works. Okay. So we have just a little bit more before I'll take your questions, and then I can go back and show you anything else that you want to see again or differently. Meanwhile, some tips for using Family Search books is that it's really great for full text searches. As I showed you, you can search for that word Perry or any other word you wanted. You're always looking for books that will give you public access so that there's not restrictions on it, copyright restrictions. Sometimes it will search within a book and say, well, yeah, there's search results in there, but we can't show you the whole book because the copyright is limited. So you might have to go to a family history center to view those. As I mentioned, you can download some of them. You can keyword search within them. So a really great place for reading a whole bunch of books at one time pretty quickly, especially if you're looking for particular information. Okay, so the Family Search Catalog will be the last of the major search areas that I show you. I'm going to show you the Wiki in a few minutes too. But as far as digging for old records. So the Family Search Catalog represents the holdings of the entire family history library in Salt Lake City. So what we're talking about here are copies of original historical records that might be on microfilm or microfiche. They might be digitized, so they might be online. They might be just printed indexes or abstracts, inventories. So things like cemetery readings that were published by a local society, things like that, you'll find in the Family Search Catalog. You'll also find lots of books like published family histories people have compiled, local and county histories, maps, and gazetteers like the atlas I just showed you. Lots of how-to guides and other kinds of things to help you research your family. Some of the Family Search Catalog entries, they're set up like a library catalog. That's what it is. So you would look at each item individually, whether it's a map or a book or a microfilm or whatever it is. But it will also have links. If this item has been digitized, it will link you to it, including if it has been digitized, but they haven't really indexed it yet. And so you wouldn't find it any other way except by going to the Family Search Catalog and clicking on the link from here. So let's take a look at that, what that looks like. We're going back to the website. All right, so we're at the search again, and now this time we're going to go to catalog. And then catalog here, again, means all of the materials that are at the Family History Library. And they're starting to expand that so that you can use their catalog to look for materials that are in libraries in other parts of the world too. So let's go back to our Lake County search. And we can choose there. You could get more specific if you wanted to. If you wanted to look for Perry, you could do that. But let's look for Lake County. And what it's going to show you, Again, this is a library catalog, so think like a librarian here. All of these records have been organized first by place and then by the type of record they are. So if you're interested in Lake County Cemetery records, Lake County Bible records, gazetteers or atlases, guardianship records, Lake County histories, maps, each of these categories you could open to see what they have. If I'm looking for church records from Lake County, Ohio, which I'm always interested because I love church records, there's records for the Grand River Baptist Association, the another Baptist, Mentor and Willoughby Plains Conference, and some Presbyterian records for the Grand River Presbytery. So you could look at these. Each of them has different years associated with them. Let's go ahead and look at this. So again, this should look very much, instead of looking like the image viewers that we've gone into or name searches, this looks like your typical library card catalog because that's what it is. It's telling you what kind of record it is. This one is a manuscript and a manuscript on film, meaning it's been microfilmed. And these are actually, these are a microfilm of his original records that are at the Western Reserve Historical Society. There are minutes and an account book, tells you what years are missing, what's available. So, this tells you that, yes, it looks like this has been digitized, but there are some restrictions on it. So this might be one that you would have to go to a family history center to take a look at. In your case, because you're so close to the Western Reserve Historical Society, you might choose to go there instead. But something that you could do if you couldn't get to the Western Reserve Historical Society and you couldn't open these records here, and I'll just show you that experience. So it's telling me I need to go to a family history center or a family search affiliate library. And I'm not sure if what the nearest family search affiliate library is, whether the Morley Library in Painesville is a family search affiliate or not. So you'd have to figure that part out. So that's why it's not letting me look at those. So going back, since I can't look at them here, and maybe I couldn't get to Western Reserve, I want to see if this particular set of records is in any other library. And for that, I click here. WorldCat is an enormous library catalog for thousands of different libraries. So around the world, but especially in the United States. So let's say this wants me to enter my location here. So it's bringing up the same entry in the WorldCat catalog. So it's bringing me over here, and this is exactly what I wanted to see. That's that same information, and it's giving me the category. So I could go in and search for other records that are related, that might be related or are categorized in the same way. But I can also scroll down here and I can see that the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne and the Family History Library both have microfilm versions of this record. So these are my options for where I could go to view these records if I can't view them online. So that's how FamilySearch Catalog helps you find records that might be someplace else other than online and other than the Family History Library if you can't get there yourself. So again, that's the catalog. So you can find it there, or you could find it under Search Catalog. Okay, so let's go back. Just a couple more times we're going to do this. All right, so the tips here, remember to search by location, and then you can look at all the different record types that are there by location. And then when you're in the catalog entry, if there had been digitized records for that particular Baptist church, I would have seen a link to them in the catalog entry. So you can watch for that. Instead, I had to take you over to WorldCat to look at other copies of it. And then, of course, I also read those notes to see that the originals of those records are at the Western Reserve Historical Society in case I wanted to go there to find them. Okay, the very last big place I'm going to show you, and this is just really brief, is the FamilySearch Research Wiki. So as I mentioned earlier, this is basically an encyclopedia, and it's all just been contributed to by volunteers, just like Wikipedia, and they write on different genealogical topics. They might write about places or record types, Languages, you might get whole word lists in foreign languages if you're trying to read old records in another language. Some pages have more information than others. Some might be kind of outdated. Some might have mistakes, just like Wikipedia online, because it is all user contributed and it's free. But there's a lot of really great information, especially since FamilySearch is a free website. They don't care if you go someplace else to do your research. So they're happy to direct you. Like if they don't have the records you need, but they know of another website where they might be, they'll point you to that other website. There's no sense of competition. So you can use the Research Wiki to even find records at other websites. So let's take a look. And we're back here on FamilySearch. And under search, I can go to Research Wiki, or right here, I can go to where it says Wiki. Either one will get me there. All right, the Research Wiki, as you can see here, you can choose a place. And let's say I wanted to choose North America. Then I can choose a place within North America. And I'm going to choose Ohio. Now it's going to take me to their landing page for Ohio, and I can do all kinds of things here. There's plenty to read and learn. And you don't worry about breaking anything. Go ahead and click on whatever links you want to and just start exploring. You can do read all kinds about different kinds of Ohio research, different kinds of records, boundary land changes. You can go into particular counties. So I could click here on Lake County, and this will take me to the landing page for Lake County research. And then let's see what people have said about Lake County. So it's giving me, looks like this is pretty good. So as I'm just going to roll through this kind of slowly. So I could click on any one of these towns or cities, and it would take me to a landing place for that page. And each one, some might be more populated than others. I'm just so curious. Let's look at Perry. Not to be confused with Perry County, Ohio. Oh, this gave me a link to regular Wikipedia. I don't want that. I'm going to go back here. So these are all links. It looks like here, it's showing me down here at the bottom of the page. These particular links will take you back out to actual Wikipedia. Okay, so if I scroll down a little bit lower, I'm going to start to see more information that is genealogical in nature. So it's going to click me through to different places to look for cemetery records, including the Lake County Genealogical Society, and then different church records. And there's a link there to some congregational records in Painesville, some Lutheran records at archives.com. So at some point, somebody's come in and put in these nice links to different kinds of records, naturalizations. So you just, as I said, each one of these pages is going to be a little bit different. But look, there's some great military information here. There's those soldier home records. There's some Civil War, World War I, naturalization, newspapers, all kinds of things. So the Research Wiki can really help you in lots of ways. So I showed you how to find a place page just by navigating from the map, but you can also use this box up here at the right. Let's say you're looking for Polish language assistance. So there's a Poland genealogy, Poland languages, language aids. So there's a Polish word list, and a word list will just give me common words, Polish words that are used in genealogical research. That's loading really slowly. Okay, we're not going to take time for it to load. But as you can see, there's Latin word lists. There's word lists for just about every language you can think of. And then it talks about different things you should understand if you're trying to read Polish. So that's just another example of the kinds of things that you'll find on the Research Wiki. Okay, we are just about done here. Just a second. Okay. All right, the very last thing I was going to show you is the FamilySearch's global tree. There are more than 1.2 billion people are mentioned on this tree. Some of the information is very good, some of it is not. It just depends on how accurate the information is that anyone contributes to it, because they do allow anyone to contribute. The reason, explaining that this is a global tree, it's a little bit different than you find on a lot of other genealogy websites. At a lot of places like Ancestry, you build your own tree. Each person builds their own tree and nobody else can change anything or even look at it unless you give them permission to. It's different over at FamilySearch. As you can see, as the drawing I've rendered here, many people using it, many trunks, but only one tree. So the idea is that there would only be one profile for the same third great grandfather that I might share with all of those cousins. And that all of us are working collaboratively on that one public record that's for that person. So over at the other websites, you can privatize your trees and make them not searchable, or at least not viewable by others, but not at FamilySearch. Everything about deceased people is public. So the difference that you have here is the idea that you have more control over at other websites and you have more privacy, but you have more collaboration over at FamilySearch, because instead of having that same third great grandfather populated across several websites as you would on the left, you have just one record for him. Ideally, it's possible there's some duplication, but they try hard to make sure that there's not duplication. So that's what you would see over in the FamilySearch tree, is a public, one public profile, hopefully, for that person. So I want to show you, a lot of times people think, well, if I'm not participating in that tree, I'm not helping build it, I haven't put myself in it, that kind of thing, therefore it's of no use to me. That's not true. You can still go take a look at what other people have posted about your ancestors, whether you decide to add yourself into the tree and participate in it or not. And that's the last thing I'm going to show you here tonight. So let's go back over here to FamilySearch, and we're going to go under search, we're going to go to family tree. And let's go back to that Harry Averill that we started with here and see if he shows up somewhere. So I'm going to say Painesville, Lake County. There he is. And I'm going to look for him. He does have a profile here in FamilySearch. There are lots of Harry Averills here. So I would have to scroll through and look for the Harry Averill that that is the one I want. Let's say that I remember that he was born in 1882. So I'm looking for anything between 1882 and maybe 1950. Oops. I have to repeat that. I hit the wrong button. There we go. And let's look for him. All right. So I'm not seeing, oh, there he is right there. Harry Wilson Averill, born 1882. He was actually born in Cleveland, but then he, I've looked at him before, and he did live in Painesville for a while, and that's why he's showing up here. So I can go ahead, he has a unique ID number. Every single ancestral profile on the FamilySearch tree has a unique identifier like this. So if I wanted to go take a look at Harry Wilson Averill, I could go click on his name first, and then I click on person down here. Now I could also view him in the tree. So let's do that first, actually, because then that might help you to see if this is the Harry Averill that you're looking for. And it lets you see the Harry Averill I was looking for was the father-in-law of Victor Schreckengast, who was an artist here in the Cleveland area that I worked for a while, several years ago. And that's how I knew about him. So I'm seeing that he's in this tree, and I can go navigate back and forth to see what's known about him, or I could go into his person page by clicking on his name and then clicking person. And this would let me see what's been added about him. And there's lots of information that people have entered about Harry Averill, his parents, his child, his only child, and then all of his siblings. And even better, there's 9 sources attached to this profile, increasing my confidence in the accuracy of it. So I could look at all of these sources myself and see if I agree for what's said here. Okay. All right, so in summary, I've just shown you lots of different places that you can be looking for historical records about your family on FamilySearch. So many places to search, so many different kinds of records, and they're all free. So this is just an hour. I know that was a lot of information to give you in an hour, but I really wanted you to get a sense of the scope of what's there. And you can use your handout. I've tried to make it really user-friendly so that you could go back and recreate the search experiences that I showed you. You can look yourself under the various search options. If you want to learn more, I do have a promo code for my Finding Your Family History on the Giant Genealogy website's workshop. You can save $20 with this promo code if you're interested, so that the $99 class is $79. That's good for another week or so. If you really want to dig into it, because there's a lot of instruction, video instruction, and interactive exercises to help you navigate through FamilySearch, as well as Ancestry.com, Find My Past, and My Heritage. So 4 different websites. And you can use that promo code, and then it's just yours. You can dive into that anytime you want to. You don't need to start it right away. So, but don't go do that now, because I would love to take your questions right here and now. I am with you, and I'm happy to show you anything that you'd like to see again on FamilySearch, or answer any particular questions you have about the website and how to use it. So I can go ahead and take your questions. If you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask me.
Sunny, you mentioned the handout several times. I didn't see any link to a handout in the chat box.
Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen sharing so that I can look at you guys instead. And let's see. Okay, Scott, how are you going to be sharing the handout with everyone tonight? Are you still there in the background? So I sent the handout to Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and I didn't see the handout either, so I'm not exactly sure how to get to it, but we will make it available to our participants whenever I am able to acquire it. I'm not sure where it's at the moment.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to see if it's giving me the option to post handout. I'm going to see if it's going to let me upload it. It's not letting me do that. Okay, so I do have a handout, and I'll go ahead and, okay, if you don't end up being able to get the handout in the way that Scott just mentioned, so I'm posting my email address. You're welcome to email me. We're a small group tonight. That's really easy. If you want to just email me, some of you probably already have my email address. I'll send it to you myself if they're not able to get it to you. Okay, any additional questions?
Yes, Sunny, this is
Yeah.
Mark Rout. I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I'm on Ancestry.com, have been for quite a few years. And I, on my mother's side of the family, I am back in some of those family members back into the 15 and 1600s.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun to find. The problem that I've been having is a lot of times when the hints pop up on Ancestry and I go into them, it involves a death record or a newspaper article, which are not available unless I guess you go into another level of ancestry, which of course costs more money. And that's also true with any, my family heritage is mostly from England, and I can't get anything pertaining to marriages, births, anything like that from any foreign country, including Canada. There again, that seems to include another level into the ancestry.com. So are those types of records going to be, are you finding those are available under Family Search?
Okay, so I have a few answers for you, and those are really good questions, and I understand your frustrations. And yes, everything on Family Search is free, and a lot of the kinds of records that you're talking about are available on Family Search. Some things that you just mentioned, like sometimes the obituaries, they have an enormous new obituary collection over at Ancestry that is indexed from newspapers.com. And that if you want to look at the images, it does require you to subscribe to newspapers.com.
Right.
So that can be frustrating. And it sounds like you have a country level subscription for the US records rather than the global subscription. So I would go to Family Search and look for the free records that are available there. They do have a lot of England records and a lot of US records. They're very good at England and the US. So the next thing that I would do is, I think that the Ancestry Library Edition is still free right now during COVID. So through your library, if your library subscribes to Ancestry Library Edition, and it's all libraries in Ohio I know of, and I think that it's pretty true across the country, where you should be able to go to your library website, enter your library card, and you should be able to use Ancestry's Library Edition for free. I believe the Library Edition is international. Does anyone use the Library Edition? I'm a subscriber, so I don't. Does anyone know that about the Ancestry Library Edition, whether it's international? Because you might find more access to records there. Now, you can't log in and attach them to your family tree if you're using the Library Edition, but the Library Edition, if you're going to use that, if you're able to get to it from your library website and you find the records you want, just download copies of them and then go back in and log into your own Ancestry account and update your tree. So yes, a couple different suggestions for you. And one is definitely look for free stuff on Family Search. And the other one is look for free access to Ancestry.
Now, if you get access to a record, how do you go about downloading that and adding it to your tree on Ancestry?
On Ancestry,
Yeah.
I will make a
How do
note
I
here
get-
to come back and show that. Let me ask if anyone else has questions on Family Search first.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to your Ancestry question and I can show you that in a minute. The nice thing is that I subscribe to all of these sites. I work on them all the time, so I can show you things that you want to see. So does anyone have any other questions specific to Family Search before I address this? Hopefully you're well, your brains are probably kind of full. I gave you a lot, and maybe you're sidetracked by looking on Family Search yourselves already. But hopefully you're not being quiet because you're a little overwhelmed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do another share screen, and I'm going to go back to okay, so hopefully now you see my screen that's in Family Search, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to take it into Ancestry, and let's say that, okay, I'll just go to my tree and look for a record hint that I can just show you how this works. Okay, oh, Ray's got some new stuff. Great. Let me see what's here for Raymond. I just want you to see this process. Okay, so now these are things that other people have uploaded, and I'm not sure if that experience is different. So we're going to go up to Sarah instead. Let's look at her. Actually, I can just click on this right here, I think. Okay, let's say that I was looking at the 1900 census here in Ancestry. Up here on the right where it says saved, these are my options here. Let me just move this window. I can save this to a person in my tree. There's the option. I can save the record image to my computer. So under save to your computer, I just hit that and it just downloaded a JPEG file for me, which you can probably see down there on the left. And then I could go in, I could rename that. The first thing I do when I download records from genealogy websites is rename them to, I would call this, you know, Washington McClellan 1900 census, so that I would know what it is, because I'm not going to remember that file number that it downloaded at. So that's how you save a record to your computer. Okay, did that help?
Now, if I find something on FamilySearch.
Oh, you want to see it on FamilySearch? I'm sorry, I thought you meant you wanted to see it on Ancestry.
No, if I find it on FamilySearch and I want to save that.
And you want to save it, let's take a look. Let's look for that record on Harry Averill, because he's on my mind. It doesn't even matter which one we're going to see. Okay, so let's say that, okay, there they are. There's Harry Averill. I'm looking at him in the 1940 census. Okay, so I'm going to go in and open the image viewer first. So if you can find a record image, then you're going to open that image viewer. And then over here, it says print and download. So you can do either or both. So download here, when I hit download, that automatically downloaded a JPEG to my computer again, which I could go look at in my downloads folder. But I could also choose print.
Where is the download?
So I don't know if you can see it on the bottom of my screen. Can you see down at the bottom where it shows where it is?
Yes.
But if I needed to, I could just go in here and look in my, like do it. I'm sorry, I would just do it from here. So if I needed, oh, you probably can't see that. I think it's just showing you. Okay, so I could just go into looking through the various folders on my computer. I would look for my downloads folder, and it would be the very most recent thing in my downloads folder.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, you can download the records.
Okay, that's great.
Great question. Sure. Any other questions? Anything else I can show you?
I do think that if you press on the record at the bottom corner where the download shows up, then it may show you the path. I'm not sure.
So I can right click on it and it will show it to me in the folder. Yes. Okay. And you might not, I don't know if you're seeing that in your window or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I could do that, or I could just double click on it and it would open it for me. Okay. And it's a good quality image. You could zoom in and you'll see the whole thing. It's great. And definitely, if you ever decide to discontinue your Ancestry membership, even for a little while, so what I would recommend, you can still keep your tree there, and all the records that you have attached to your tree will still be attached, and you can still use your tree as a free user. So you stop paying your Ancestry subscription fee. You can still use that your free account there to work on your tree, but you wouldn't be able to look at the records that require access, even if you've already attached them to your tree. So before you would discontinue your subscription at Ancestry, I would tell you, A, download a copy of your tree just to make sure, and then B, I would tell you download individual copies of every record that you care about having access to before you quit Ancestry. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, well, I believe that we've covered your questions tonight. Thanks for hanging in there. And I hope you've learned some things that will help you navigate FamilySearch.
Sonny, thank you so much. This is Scott again at the library. Hope everybody took notes. And if you didn't, that's unfortunate, but not really, because we recorded this. And it's on our Perry Public Library YouTube on the website. So you'll have a copy of this YouTube where you can kind of refer back to some of these things. Tomorrow, by the way, just so that you know, is Veterans Day. So in observance of that, the library will be closed tomorrow, Wednesday. We are open from 9 to 6 every day. And of course, the first hours for the high-risk patrons, but 9 to 6 a.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays we're open our regular 11 to 4 as well. And finally, perrypubliclibrary.org, if you don't know already, is our website. And you can go there and certainly go to the databases and look up the ancestry program, which you can use as well. So, Sunny, any final words in it while I was talking there? Anything else pop into your head that you wanted to just, oh, don't forget?
Nope, just get the handout. So if you are not able to get the handout from Scott, then definitely email me and I'm happy to give it to you.
Excellent. Sunny, thank you so much for being with us tonight. That was a lot of information and very, very exciting. Very good. Appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
take care, guys.